Welcome everyone to episode 3 of the F1 Fix. I'm joined by Marcus and Farhan. Well, we've just completed what has been an exciting weekend of F1. It's right from qualifying. There was surprises. There were not so surprises. There were actually, to be fair, almost every single team came up with something that was pretty intense throughout the weekend. Um, we can start off. I think we can start off pretty early with the weekend. We can look at qualifying, how that was, because honestly we could just talk about qualifying for such a long time. To give you guys a quick reminder of what qualifying order looked like, it was Bottas who got pole with the 102, which was pretty fast. I think he's only
Bottas,
him and
what is it? 4.0
3.0.
now?
yeah,
I think this one is
3.0.
3. Oh, 4? Okay.
exactly. I don't know which point oh, but then it was Hamilton followed by Verstappen, which was kind of, we knew that most likely it would be the Mercedes at the top, but nice to see that Bottas is stepping his game up and showing Lewis that he's doing it. He did have to cut a bit of grass on his way out, um, but he got the job done. He turned his Mercedes into a lawnmower, but he got pole, which was pretty exciting. Um, Following them up was Max, which we kind of expected, but P4, which we didn't kind of expect, was Lando Norris, and he throughout the weekend came up with a couple of surprises. Do you guys have any notes on what do you think about Lando Norris and how he's turning out this season?
Bro,
I think he's doing amazing. Like, last season he was pretty much neck and neck with Carlos. And on the slightly Carlos... Well, I mean, it was Lando's first season. So it made sense that Carlos was better than him and he could perform. He could take more out of the car. But this season, I don't know if it's because Lando's just had all the time in the world to do his esports and sim racing, that maybe he's just like a complete beast now whenever it comes to actually going back on track.
I I I, I agree. Also, it's very funny that you and Zach Brown call Carlos the same. You say Carlos. I don't know. It's an American
it's
thing.
an American
But
thing.
it sound you like
Carlos.
Carlos. Yeah,
Carlos.
interesting. But
Carlos.
yeah, no,
Okay.
Carlos was definitely outshining Lando last season, and especially with the result that he's come up with after the race, with his first ever podium. Unbelievable, that guy. He's what, a couple of months older than us, which is slightly depressing, but
Bro,
that guy
I
is,
I am older than him by a few days, which blows my mind. And look where he's at. Look where I'm at, mate.
you
This
you
guy is insane. And also, I'm telling you, like the sim racing during the off season did something.
yeah.
Even
I
with
mean
Russell,
that's
like he was well ahead of Latifi. I'm just
yeah.
saying, just saying.
Which I think, to be honest, okay, yeah. Let's talk about that. Russell qualified P17 above both the alphas and above obviously his teammate, which I
No,
expected him to be faster than Latifi, but above both the alphas, that's pretty impressive.
I
wait,
yeah.
was it not... did he get into Q2?
No, no, that was
No, that was
that was Styrian Grand Prix. We're
wow.
talking
You
Oh,
about the
predicted the
Austrian.
future. You predicted the future.
my bad.
To our viewers, by
It's
the
been a
way,
little
we're
while.
recording this after the Styrian Grand Prix and the Austrian Grand Prix, but we're just pretending like we don't know that the Styrian Grand Prix has happened yet. We're just talking about the Austrian. Next episode we'll talk about the Styrian one. But he was close to Q2. His time was a 105.16, and Romain Grosjean was a 105.09. So it was literally just like what, 5 tenths off, which is 500ths off, not 5 tenths, 500ths, which is insane.
Yeah,
Like he
insane,
was extremely close. Yeah,
bro. His talents are definitely wasted at Williams. I can't wait till he's in a Mercedes or a Racing Point. or just any other car, like legit.
Yeah, yeah, but
He,
it just
I
sucks
don't
because
know, but yeah.
there's just no
Yeah.
space for him anywhere. Like where the Mercedes teams are basically out. Racing Point have their own issues going on, and with their driver market stuff going on right now, it's not gonna happen. Um, there's who's the other Mercedes teams? Williams obviously not gonna happen. McLaren are gonna be Mercedes next year. Not gonna happen because they're pretty set already. There's just not that many open
Uh,
doors.
the only like good thing about that is he's like way really early in his career, so
Mm.
I'm sure
He'll have the opportunity.
6 years down the
Yeah.
line he'll be
Yeah.
a world champion.
I want to see him,
But
Lando, Max, Charles all fighting it out.
yeah,
That's gonna be one hell
Albon,
of.
don't forget
Uh,
Albon.
yeah, sure, Albon.
Sure.
Okay, let's
What
talk
do you
about
think
Albon.
about
Okay.
Albon? Yeah.
Let's talk about Albon. Okay, I love Albon. He's such a nice guy. Like whenever I see his interviews and him like talking or like doing his like Red Bull vlogs, whatever it is, it's so nice to watch him. Like he's such a nice guy. His personality just like makes you feel happy. He's like one of those guys where everybody around him just like loves him. But
Yeah.
like pure pace, he's no match for Max, which is kind of it's tough to be Max's teammate. Everyone says this. The worst teammate to possibly have on the grid right now, apart from maybe Magnussen, is Max. Max is by far the worst teammate to have because he will outshine you no matter what. Like, just the fact that he can keep up with the Mercedes is impressive. So, it's hard to say that Albon is slow because you're comparing him to Max. At the same time, that's the person that you need to be on par with or close to, and the fact that he's not really there yet. Maybe it's a matter of a lack of experience. He's still only in his second season of F1, which I think we forget since he is in a Red Bull. This is his second season of F1. And we're only one or two races in. So I think there's still a little bit more to come out of his pace and everything, but there definitely is a lot of expectations to be met there.
Bro, I think like
But
even if you look at Max's journey, like the start was very rough. Like he needed a lot of maturing to do before, and he's been in F1 for a good few years now. Like
I think this is fifth season.
6
Yeah.
years. Like, and I think there was stats like from last year. If you compare Albon's first few races with Red Bull to Max's first few races at Red Bull, they were basically equal, if not slightly in favor of Albon, I believe. But I could be wrong there. But like, I think it's just a matter of maturity. Albon's a very and experience. So Albon's a very mature driver already, I feel. But like, it's just that experience that he needs, and I really think he's the future of talent. There's no doubt that Max isn't the future because he's definitely like one of the superstars. But I feel like yes, Albon has been outqualified by Max and outperformed by Max, but it's just a learning curve that. Yeah, and Max also had a
it's
few years in Toro Rosso. Albon didn't even have that. At the
Yeah,
start.
half a
He was
season.
just jumped straight to Red Bull.
but Max's first race with Red Bull, he won, didn't he?
Yeah, which is
So he
hard comparison.
straight away, whenever he moved into Red Bull, he was able to. I mean, I don't know how the car was as a contender at the time, but he was at least able to beat Danny Rick. So
Yeah.
that's something.
True.
Which Albon,
No.
he hasn't ever really put up a real fight with Max.
Yeah, Max is. There's no doubt Max is not a superstar. Like he is.
Yeah. He's like one of those people that you know,
talented,
no matter what, he's gonna win a championship at some point. It's inevitable, unless he's extremely unlucky and like the Red Bull never becomes championship contending. He's 100%. If he's in a car that can compete at the front, he will win. Just the fact that he's able to keep up with the Mercedes in his Red Bull, which is definitely slower, is just showing that he can definitely beat basically any of his teammates, beat anybody that's going to contend with him at the front. So I don't know if it's it's just a matter of time before he wins a championship. Okay.
Yeah, which sucks for Albon because there's so much pressure on him in that sense.
There is, but I mean, there's going to be pressure for anyone going up against Max. I think that's just inevitable.
Going up against Max, yeah.
It's kind of impossible to talk about this without mentioning the Styrian Grand Prix now, just because that was the biggest. I mean, in the Austrian Grand Prix, they were not close, but Albon was at least having pace. In the Styrian Grand Prix, Albon finished half a minute after Max, and since there are only 71 laps, that means he's averaging half a second slower per lap.
Even his qualifying
not
was about
good
half a
pace.
second.
Yeah.
His qualifying was also about half a second off of Max. So yeah, there's definitely a pace disadvantage. I don't know if race pace is sometimes hard to compare, obviously because of tires and like strategy and everything. But I think his race pace is actually pretty good. We can talk about his incident, I guess, in Austria with Lewis. Which, by the way, like when I was watching that, I was heartbroken when Lewis spun him off. I was like, there's this one thing I just hope does not happen. But it did look like he could have compete to win because he was flying. He had so much.
Red Bull nailed that strategy as well, pitting for the softs, and he said in the interview he had a 5 lap gap to basically catch Hamilton and Bottas, and whether he would win or not would be determined in those 5 laps where the softs would be activated.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think like he could have done it. Like he had that move on Hamilton pretty easy. I mean, obviously Hamilton's
it definitely was not an easy move, but
it wasn't easy, but
he was 90% of the way
there.
there.
That move was done basically.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed.
It's so frustrating.
If you look at I think the helicopter view, you can see like Albon left so much of a gap for Hamilton. He pushed all the way right to the curb to allow Hamilton, like, give Hamilton space. But it's just, I don't know. When I saw 5 seconds for the penalty, I just was... It didn't seem fair because Albon was out of the race, like, completely. Like, he disqualified after that. So, I don't know. Just not cool. And you could tell, like, in the interview, he was heartbroken. Like,
that's what I like about Albon. Albon's like, he keeps his head up. Like, he's like, I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions. Maybe it was my fault. He looked at the data again, and obviously it definitely was. I don't know if you guys oppose this, but I definitely think that was Lewis's fault to a certain degree. I think it was a hard one to call. I think because essentially what happened was Lewis understeered into him. He couldn't have turned more. It's not like he purposefully understeered less, but his understeer he could have controlled by just letting off the throttle a bit, which he didn't, which I think that like a lot of other racers probably would have done the same thing as Lewis did, where they don't want to lose the position. People like Max, like the really hardcore fighters on the racetrack, they wouldn't have given that place up, and I feel like it could have ended similarly for a lot of drivers. But definitely the penalty was deserved because Lewis understeered into him, and he could have taken some avoiding action to avoid that. And we saw with Perez and Albon's collision what it could have looked like if there was a little bit more control from Lewis's side. So yeah, I definitely think that the penalty was warranted.
But that's also an interesting thing that you mentioned about the interview, how he was like saying, "Oh, it could have been my fault. Maybe we should look at the footage again." Do you think that's why he is kind of behind Verstappen? Because I already know if Verstappen was in that crash, he would be furious. He would like Verstappen has that fire in him, whereas Albon is definitely more tame and more like respectful. Like, you guys get what I'm saying? Like, Verstappen has that fire in him to go for an overtake even when it's not there, go for riskier moves, whereas Albon is more tame, maybe more reserved. and wouldn't go for moves or wouldn't push the car to like its absolute limit.
Yes, I agree, and that's also once again back to the Styrian Grand Prix. How Max he spun on the very end of his last qualifying lap. It's I see Max as just really pushing it much more than Albon. That is true.
Okay, yeah, so I agree with you guys where Max definitely is that more fiery driver. You know, he will push, and the consequences are less of a matter for him. But here's where I kind of think that Albon also has that. Albon will go for the move if there's even the slightest chance that he can make it. He did that move in he did basically the same move on Perez in Styrian Grand Prix and the same move on Lewis in the Austrian Grand Prix. And I think the reason why Red Bull kept him in Red Bull and not demoted him back to Toro Rosso is because Pierre wouldn't do the same thing. While Pierre is a great driver, he has great pace. He failed to show that he could make those riskier moves. He was a little bit more tame. Like he wouldn't do that. I think that Pierre in the same position, if Albon was in the same position that Albon is in, where maybe it's just he hasn't even finished a full season with the team yet. I think that the reason they chose Albon is because Albon shows that he will go for those riskier moves. He did it on Lando in Brazil or Japan last year, where it was definitely like a not a great overtake because he made contact, but definitely he goes kind of beyond into the gray area of overtakes. He does that lunge, and I think that's why they have kept him, and that's why I think that even though his like one lap pace is not as good yet, his race pace is definitely really good.
Yeah, Spa last year was a very good showcasing for Albon in terms of
Yeah.
the overtake on the grass and the overtake on Danny Rick.
Yeah, yeah. It
Both
shows
of
that
those two were.
he definitely does have a fire. But yes, I also do agree. Um, yeah, Max is just another level. Okay, well let's talk about
Yeah.
one of the biggest shocks of the weekend, which was um, Ferrari, and it's kind of still a shock. Ferrari, if for people that may not know, or maybe just have started watching F1, Ferrari is not a team that's
This
supposed to
car right
qualify.
here.
Exactly. It's not a team that's supposed to qualify, that's supposed to be gone in Q2. So Ferrari is supposed to be a top three team right above Red Bull, if not competing with Mercedes. They built championship winning cars in 2017, 2018, didn't get to it. And now suddenly we're here where one of them has been knocked out in Q2. The other one almost got knocked out of Q2. It's kind of unbelievable that they've just made such a big downturn, and it seems to have come at the same time with all this negative energy around them having to let go of or not have offered Vettel a contract at all, and just seems like a really
Yeah.
bad time to be Ferrari.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think everyone was kind of. I have a friend who literally stopped watching qualifying after that because he was so devastated that Ferrari qualified 10th. Like, it's insane the drop off. Like, I know like with coronavirus and stuff, Italy got hit the hardest initially, so
Mm.
that might play like a big factor because all of them were at home. No one could really go to the factory. Things like that. But even during preseason testing, there was some issue, like there was just an issue surrounding Ferrari and how their performance is not that great. And I mean, we saw like in race pace they were fighting with Williams. Like that's crazy. from 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 where they were 2 years ago to now, insane. I
Yeah.
And it really brings the question what happened last year, because we know that last year Ferrari had a deal with the FIA about their engine.
Mm.
Um, Teams were questioning it as like illegal, but there was a contract negotiated with Ferrari and the FIA that no one really um, knew. Well, people knew about it, but the details were not explained explicitly.
Yeah.
So it really brings the question like, what were those? what was going on with that engine last year? What was this deal they had with FIA? And to think that if they remove this illegal component of the engine or illegal factor of this engine, that big of a drop off is just insane. Like,
Well, okay.
I couldn't believe it.
But what about the
Sorry.
other teams that are using Ferrari engines?
So okay.
Alpha,
Here's
they've
what
also
I think.
dropped,
Right.
I would say.
There is definitely, yeah. All the Ferrari teams have had drop offs. But technically, Ferrari stopped using that cheat, which apparently was them like trying to. I think they figured out a way to burn extra oil, which would give them extra horsepower, um, in the engine, which technically is supposed to be illegal. And the deal that was worked out with the FIA was that essentially, in exchange for them to not get a more severe penalty, they would work with the FIA to help, like, to help tell them how teams could cheat and how to stop that from happening in the future. Which is kind of funny. Like you get the person that you get the criminal to help you stop crime. Which okay, I don't know. We don't need to get
It
into
makes
the
sense.
ethics of all that, but I think the while there was definitely a drop off coming from their cheating and who knows what they had to drop from last season. I think that Ferrari would have tried to stop some of their illegal pieces already. I think that the drop off is actually just because they haven't developed the car well enough, or just their philosophy is just wrong with the car. Maybe they've changed something. Which another thing
I
is embarrassing for them because this is their season where they have their 1000th race. Now imagine going. They have a back to back in Italy, in Mugello, which is
Yeah.
owned by Ferrari, in Monza, which we know how. Thank God that fans are not coming because they would like tear Ferrari apart. There would be literal
Oh, it would
protest
be so
mobs. It would
bad.
be so bad. But I mean, it's good that they don't have crowds then. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an embarrassing season for Ferrari. I think the drop off has come just because they haven't developed the car well enough because they focused too much on getting that extra downforce because they decided, oh, we had so much horsepower from last year, we're probably going to not need to develop our engine at all, and let's put our money onto the downforce. Oh no, now we've got
But
too much downforce and our engines are not strong enough.
maybe.
My
'Cause
only hope for them is that they're just focusing on 2022 now. I mean, even if you can't, okay, unless you're like Racing Point and you just completely copy another team, you can't make up a full second plus gap in one season. That's just impossible. So I think Ferrari just needs to, I don't know, admit that they're going to be fighting Williams or something for the next 2 seasons and just focus
I
on
think
the new regulations.
no, but they did announce that they're bringing in like a significant package for the Hungarian Grand Prix. So um, they were kind of hoping to wait out on that and see if there was any improvements from that. But yeah, just a shocking like.
I think that they might be able to bring some improvement, but it's definitely not going to get them to compete anywhere near the front. And I
Yeah.
think it's just going to
Yeah.
be a
But
bad time for them.
but mentioning that, however, Leclerc finishing P2,
Oh
just
yeah, props
insane,
props to that guy. Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Like
He
yeah, they would have been on a
he.
high after that because, I mean, they were on a very big low from
No, I
qualifying.
think that they definitely took that with a grain of salt because I think that just comes down to the type of driver Leclerc is. Like he will just keep fighting, but I definitely think that they didn't take that P2 very seriously because that's not where they deserve to be, and I don't think that was down to
Yeah,
their performance.
Leclerc admitted that it wasn't theirs. I mean, both of the Red Bulls would have been in front of them, realistically.
I
Mercedes
mean,
just had
yeah,
the problem, and both Mercedes were in front of them, even though they had to be avoiding the curves.
Mm.
Well, Ferrari didn't. Ferrari didn't have any problems, so that
Yeah,
was their like fully going out without any flaws,
yeah.
and they
yeah,
required 7 DNFs, like just so that, and a bunch of people to fall back behind them, just for them
and
to get
penalties as
into.
well. Two penalties
Yeah,
from
Two
Paris
penalties.
and Hamilton.
Yeah,
Like wow,
yeah.
that's insane. I think
they
you
got
could
very
tell.
lucky.
Yeah. See, the thing is,
Look,
go ahead.
Leclerc's voice in qualifying just said it all. Like when
Yeah,
he was
he
like,
was so
"Oh, what
confused.
position are we in?" He was like, "What? How is this
That's
possible?"
crazy.
And
He literally said, "That's crazy."
yeah,
And
that's crazy. Like, can you imagine?
and see, that's the thing. I think
I
another reason why they're really confused is because the balance of the car, the way it drives, the way it feels, is actually really good. Like it's not unstable. Like we saw, the Red Bulls are kind of unstable. The balance on that car is really good. Like it feels really
yeah.
nice to drive. It's not unstable. It's just slow.
It's 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 like what Latifi said after qualifying. He was like, "Yeah, the car felt really good under me. It felt like it had really good pace." And then he qualified 20th. Like, I just I don't know what he was saying, but like,
That's the thing. You can have a car that feels really good, and it's like the opposite of Haas, right? The Haas cars, like last year, we saw they qualified like P5 in some races, really fast when it's exactly raced in like the perfect conditions. But like you put one little thing to complicate it, and it's just P20. You're done. Out. You're gonna break your tires are off. Tires are falling off. Brakes are overheating. Engine malfunction, gearbox falls apart, something will happen to that Haas car. But it's fast. It would have been fast if they actually got their things under
But
control. That's the opposite of what the Ferrari is. The Ferrari is not fast, but it's nice to drive.
can I just
yeah,
say, as Farhan briefly mentioned Latifi, and I just find him so funny in terms of after the Austrian Grand Prix, he was just like, yeah, for my first race, it was very good going from P20 to P13. It was very
No,
well
no,
done.
he went. No, 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 no. He went P11, because 9 cars retired.
Sorry, to P11. It was just like,
One
you
one
just
place away from points.
okay. I mean, it sounds good, but you were dead last the whole time.
yeah, it's like getting P11 on my debut race. I was so
Yeah,
close to points. Like, what are you saying, bro? This guy.
yeah.
Oh, he's too funny.
Oh, which
It's
is why I
just
feel so
yeah.
bad for George, because he was so close, and he would have gotten
Oh
his
yeah,
points if it were not for his DNF,
he
which
would
is
have.
ridiculous.
You would have.
He would have.
Yeah, that Williams was reliable last year. It's just very disappointing to see it not be this year. Um, okay, well, another kind of surprise, which everyone kind of saw coming, the Tracing Point, the pink Mercedes, the I don't know what other nicknames it has, but you know, they've got a brilliant car.
Force
And
India.
okay, maybe we can debate. Let's talk about what you guys think about copying cars. Because look, they've kind of played a masterstroke here. And like Martin Brundle was saying, if he was, or Ted Kravitz was also saying, if he was in the same position, they would have done the same thing. They would have copied a car,
Yeah.
spent not as much money on actual researching, just copied a car, the best car on the grid for a year or two, and then put that extra money into the car, developing it, the 2022 car, which fair,
And
and especially for a team that's strapped for cash, might be a good idea.
look, it's for me. It was a no-brainer because they have Mercedes's power unit. They have Mercedes suspension and a bunch of other like parts from Mercedes. It just makes sense. And like, why would you actively pursue your own direct route to design a car from the bottom up when you have a blueprint of the perfect car using your parts? I mean, the
Mm,
parts you have.
yeah,
It just makes sense. And like,
yeah.
I think for me, like, the FIA and Mercedes both acknowledge that they have very similar car, if not pretty much a copy, and they have no problems with it. And I feel like that's all that matters, right? Like, it's
Mm,
Mercedes's intellectual properties, and they've allowed. I mean, they haven't said anything against Racing Point. There's clearly some exchange there because
Yeah.
um, Racing Point does have parts from Mercedes, so there is exchange, there's communication, and the FIA have said, look, if both teams are fine with it, then it's fine with us. So honestly, for me, I don't see an issue with it. but I can see why other teams would raise like concerns with that.
But it's not. I mean, copying the last year's title winning car. You should definitely you have a good car underneath you, but last year's title winning car is also going to be developing, so you're never actually going to be in a winning car, and that's why I think the FIA is okay with it. It's just because sure you can copy, go ahead, but you're not going to win. You'll do well. You'll be better than Haas and Williams, but you're not going to win. So it's
So here's what I think. Copying cars, technically in the rules, you're allowed to copy a car. Like, you can look at other cars, you can take pictures of it, and you can literally do the exact same thing as Racing Point have done, and you can recreate the car if you would like. But there's a couple of factors there. You can't take help from Mercedes itself, which is why so the protests that Renault have done, where they've said that the brake ducts, they think that they've cheated on, because so the brake ducts, once the tires are on, and even if the tires are off, you can't see the brake ducts. So what they're saying is that we want to check that Racing Point have not had Mercedes' help in copying the brake ducts, because it's physically impossible for them to copy it without actually getting like the blueprints, because you can't take a picture of it and recreate it. That's one point why they've done the protest. But here's another thing. Just because they've copied it doesn't mean that it's not hard to do. Copying a car and making it work is not something that's just like they don't need to put any brain power into. The fact that the engineers and Perez has rightfully mentioned it, and he's brought it up. They've worked very hard on the car to make sure that it works properly, and even though it is a copy, it's not an easy feat to make it work. Because other teams have tried to copy it, and if you try to copy like one specific part of another car, it might not work because your design philosophy is completely different. Your aero philosophy might be completely different. Like Red Bull's and Mercedes' design philosophy of how to get airflow around their car is extremely different. If Red Bull were to copy Mercedes' front wing, it might not work. So it's not something to just keep passing them off for, that they haven't done any work. They've just copied it and done nothing. I think there is still fair credit to be given to Racing Point.
I don't think anyone's like contesting the fact that they didn't put any hard work into it. It's more like if there was like not stealing, but consensual exchange of intellectual property, which would be illegal because competing teams are not allowed to help each other, basically, unless they're with certain parts like the power
the
unit,
allowable parts.
But again, with that, it's one thing to copy a car, but understanding it, driving it, understanding the telemetry, how to set it up, there's so many factors involved that just I mean, they did put hard work into it, and the fact that they're performing really well speaks to that.
It's just I think it's a decent place for them to be at right now. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Honestly, I'm glad though, because Perez hasn't been. I always thought he was a very talented driver, but his skills were never shown.
Never had the good car
in that Racing Point.
Yeah. Who?
Well, until now, like
Perez.
Checo Perez.
Checo Perez.
Do you know that guy?
No, I never heard of him.
Doesn't ring a bell.
No.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Stroll fan myself.
Oh yeah, biggest Stroll fan. Let's rename this the Stroll podcast. We should get Lawrence Stroll to invest.
Let's.
Oh yes.
Okay,
he'll make Stroll one of our He'll make sure that Stroll is one of our co-hosts.
Can I just add on top of that? During quali, Perez set the exact same time as Verstappen during a dry normal quali.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane, bro. Verstappen, like in a Red
Oh,
Bull,
no, no, no. It wasn't
nonetheless.
Verstappen. It was Albon. He said the same time as Albon.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah.
am I getting Red Bulls mixed up?
Yeah, yeah. It's
No,
Albon, Albon.
Okay,
103,868,
well,
same as Albon.
that's not as impressive.
still, still, dude. No,
Still
it is
impressive.
because it's
Just,
like
Yeah.
Red Bulls are suited towards a Red Bull ring. Obviously, they
No,
they
I
pref-
don't know if that's true.
they don't.
They
They
are.
don't practice there. They don't like
They don't, but
develop there.
they've historically their car has
They've
been
won
very
there.
suited to this track.
Mm.
Yeah, and
But
they've
how
been
much
fast
of that
there.
is a mental effect? Because I mean, every driver now, whenever you go into a race, you hear them say, "Oh, this is how I feel about this circuit." So every driver has different emotions towards the circuit. Like Hamilton in the
Maybe.
Hungaroring said, "It's not so great." So I'm kind of hoping he won't do so great. But for the Red Bulls, they always love the Red Bull ring. I mean, they have
Yeah.
to. So
Mm.
Yes, but still, like the fact that a racing point equaled the time of a Red Bull,
Mm.
insane.
Definitely shows that,
Yeah.
they've got pace in that car.
And I don't know, where did Stroll qualify?
Stroll qualified
The Austrian.
ninth, P9.
So he was like,
decent.
but he was behind, like well behind.
But his one lap pace has been historically pretty bad. So yeah, his race pace is
Okay.
usually better.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
One thing I would mention though about like teammates and pace, I honestly I thought Ocon's pace wasn't as impressive as I would have hoped. I don't know, like him and Ricardo just seem way too off.
Well, I am
Like-
I'm not a you know how we all say like we love all drivers and we support all the teams and everything. Ocon really pushes that statement. Yeah.
What is it? Was it because of Brazil when he crashed into Verstappen?
Max.
And the Styrian Grand Prix really didn't make it any better. I mean, I was texting you guys while it was happening, and it was just like, holds up Ricardo, just like, no,
Oh,
we're on different tire strategies, so I'm definitely slower now. You're definitely faster, but you can wait. Okay, now I'm gonna go retire, and now you can pass.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. Look, I was actually surprised by this because Ocon, he did have good one lap pace. I don't know. Maybe he's just only good in the wet because I remember in Spa last year he qualified like P3, P4 or something.
2018.
Yeah, it was 2018. Sorry, not last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
He qualified ahead of Perez, like P3, P4, something really good. Of course, it was in the wet, but yeah, I was a bit disappointed. I was like, maybe it was just his year away. He's just out of practice or something. Because his race pace was good. He finished eighth. Well, to be fair, 8th out of 11th, but still finished 8th. It was okay, I think.
No, but like I think Ricardo made way more out of that Renault than Ocon did, for sure.
Ricardo
yeah.
is definitely just he's really good, and it's hard to compare him again. Because okay, think about this. Ricardo was matching, if not often beating Max, and at that level, like he's good. Like Ricardo is easily one of the best drivers on the grid. So
I've had a friend tell me that he thinks Ricardo is the best driver in the grid. What do you think about that?
Hard to tell because he's just never been in that like championship winning car.
Yeah.
But
no, but like he reckons that Ricardo is the best driver. He's just had unfortunate circumstances with his car. In Red Bull, obviously, he had so many DNFs and retirements and stuff.
If you think about it, his first season in 2014, he beat Vettel. First season in the Red Bull, definitely showed that he is definitely unbelievably good. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's hard to know if he's the best. I still think Max is the best, like pound for pound on the grid. But
Pound
yeah,
for pound.
Pound for pound.
pound
But
for
yeah,
pound.
he must be excited to he must be excited to go to McLaren
But
next season.
Danny's driving style and Max's is they're quite different because with Danny it's I mean most of his overtakes are really him just like lunging and very late on the brakes, while Max can push it through corners, can do like how he had a amazing fight with Bottas, even though it was only for like a few corners, but that's more of Max's style. It's
That was
not
so
just
good.
being late on the brakes, which is what Danny Rick is. So it's two different styles, but I don't know who
They
I
both
wouldn't
work,
I
I
wouldn't
mean.
know who's better. Yeah,
Yeah,
we need
hard to
George
tell.
Russell to be perfect at both. That's
No, Latifi, bro, he's the goat. He went
Latifi.
11th on his debut. In a Williams as well. He brought the Williams from last place to nearly points finish. He's
You know who
on
impressed me though?
Kubica's level, bro.
Pierre. Gasly was actually pretty impressive in the Austrian Grand Prix. He finished 7th, and like overall he's been pretty good, and I think he's much better in the Toro Rosso than he ever was in the Red Bull.
Dude,
Yeah.
I keep saying this. Like, I think Gasly's a really good driver. He's just his talents weren't shown at Red Bull. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I think give it maybe a few years and maybe he would be perfectly suited for that seat. But he just
That's the
wasn't
problem.
feeling it at Red Bull.
It's
Like,
F1. It's
yeah,
ruthless.
fair
Like considering that.
enough.
So, I mean, Hulkenberg got kicked out of his seat. We don't know what's going on with Perez right now. Vettel, like the best drivers on the grid, you sometimes just get booted off, and that's just F1.
Yeah.
Should we talk about
Speaking of
Perez for a little
Hulkenberg-
bit?
Talk about who?
Wait, speaking of Hulkenberg,
Perez.
did you guys see that photo of him watching the
Oh
Grand
yeah, that
Prix
was so funny.
from his couch?
No. Is it on his Instagram?
Dude,
Yeah, it's on his
it's,
Instagram.
I
Yeah.
don't. It's just a photo of him watching the Grand Prix, and it's so sad. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, he was happy, but like, it just feels bad.
Mm.
But also, like, you know, on the Renault, like, there on the fin, there's like a slight blue Armco logo.
Yeah,
Dude, I think that looks so sexy.
that specific blue part.
Yeah, it
On the
looks so
Renault?
nice on the Renault. No, you don't think so?
I mean, I don't mind it. It's just I don't have
Bro,
that
I
keen of
think-
an eye for it.
I wouldn't call
Bro,
it
I
sexy.
keep noticing it. I keep noticing it, and I think it looks so good on the Renault. Like, I think like, bro, if there was some more elements of blue, paying homage to that like 2006
yeah.
livery,
Mm.
it would have so nice.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I guess
Well,
I'm the only
let's. I think we can talk about this driver market next episode, which will come
Okay.
for our viewers. We'll talk about a lot of the exciting news that's gonna come out. I think let's conclude this episode for now. Unless you guys have something else to quickly bring up about Austrian Grand Prix.
No, we haven't mentioned this, but I wonder what Sainz is feeling like about Ferrari.
I think if I was him, I would be. I don't know. I would be in a very confused place because obviously he's not joining to join them for just one year. Like he's not just thinking about 2021. I'm sure he thought about the future. I don't know if it was much like, for example, Ricardo joining Renault. It was more of Renault proving to him that they have a good car. They know that they can develop a good car for 2021/2022.
Yeah.
Sainz joining Ferrari was more of, here's a once in a lifetime opportunity to join one of the most famous F1 teams of all time. Take it. Like, don't think so much about the technicality of whether they'll make a good car or not. It's just you can't.
No, but it was a
take-
given that they would have a good car,
Yeah, it was. I think originally.
or
yeah,
better
you
than
would think.
McLaren.
Mm.
Better
So-
than McLaren.
Yeah, even then, look, even if I don't know if okay, it's hard to tell, but the allure of Ferrari is just it's just such a legendary team. Like it's very very difficult, and I think even Carlos would have regretted it if he said no to that seat because it's Ferrari. It's just how it is. It's
But
Ferrari.
also, like, if you think about it, Williams also has that same reputation.
I
Like,
don't think it's the
as
same.
a world
I
champ.
don't think it's the same.
No, no,
I,
no. Obviously, it's not the same now, but before, like, it was Williams' team. Like, they they have so many world champions.
I see what you mean, though. Yeah,
constructors champions.
like legendary status.
But like, imagine where that went now. Like, no one thinks of Williams as a championship winning car. No one sees it as a possibility in the nearby future. Like,
Yeah,
do you
but
think this is like Ferrari's like slow downfall into becoming Williams 2.0? Since they're copying Williams, right?
Oh.
I don't know. It's a interesting one. I
mean-
don't. If I was Sainz right now, I'd be very confused,
Yeah.
especially with
I-
the pace of McLaren right now.
I think he's all right because of the regulation change. That's like his saving grace.
Yeah.
Because that really throws all the cards into the bag, and everyone's just
But
going to pick
still,
out random.
I think staying in McLaren, or I think okay, honestly, I think the number one winner in this entire situation is McLaren and then Ricardo, because Ricardo got out of a team that is in many ways kind of like too bureaucratic, too toxic, really, with their management. And he's gone into a team that's definitely shown upwards trajectory. They've shown that they're changing it up, and like they were definitely at their worst point in 15, 16, and so they've been making those like slow and steady steps. It hasn't just been one season they're terrible, the next season kind of not like Racing Point where they've just boosted themselves up. It's been more of like a slow, steady increase in performance, and now they're really starting to compete at the front. And I think that is the perfect thing to show somebody that they can build a good car with regulation changes.
Bro,
Yeah.
for sure. McLaren's just on a different level. Like,
Yep.
the fact that Norris, in his, second year of F1, set the fastest lap in a McLaren. Dude, I don't know how they've done this. They've rebranded completely. McLaren used to be the butt of all jokes 2 years ago.
Yeah.
McLaren was that team, like, you would laugh at. Like, you would laugh at more than... Williams you feel pity for. Haas is
Yeah.
just like, what the hell is going on
Yeah.
there? But McLaren used to be like...
The team that you would never buy merch
Yeah,
from.
just... Everyone just made fun of McLaren. But they've rebranded completely and they're in... I don't know. Yeah, it's really insane. Like,
Their
they've
image
just
has changed.
like, completely.
Yeah.
Like a 180.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, I'm happy for it. And I'm happy that all these teams are coming up to not Mercedes levels, but they're all rising. Like, if we get back to a standpoint where, 5-6 teams have equal chances of going for race wins and championships, imagine how exciting that would be. And it looks like that's where it's going. I mean, McLaren have improved significantly. Racing Point have improved significantly. Renault are like slightly getting there. Like, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Mhm.
Well, on that note, let's round off this episode. Next episode, you guys have a very exciting one to look forward to, which will probably come out soon after this one. We're going to talk about all the exciting driver news, including legends returning, legends possibly leaving, and a lot of driver market changes. We'll go over the Styrian Grand Prix, although we have kind of mentioned it this episode, and we'll also look at the preview of Hungary.